Hello everybody, it's Q, and we're gonna play some Doom Eternal. Um, it's been a long time. So, some preliminaries. First of all, I'm not playing live. This is pre-recorded, and I am dubbing the dialogue, my commentary, over the top here. For the simple reason that it's hard for me to record these things. I often have to do recording at night after my wife is asleep, because that's really the only good opportunity I have to do it. And I have an exceedingly clicky keyboard and no means of not having that come up in my gameplay. I don't have any other options as far as my microphone setup goes, so it is what it is. But that's fine, because my goal in doing this little run through here is to kind of give some tips and tricks. I am not a pro streamer. I am not, you know, anybody that's necessarily worth listening to as far as, like, if you're trying to, achieve world record times, or, whatever it is you may want to do, or even Ultra Nightmare. I'm above average very slightly, I guess, in that I play these games on Nightmare and really enjoy them. Whereas I think a lot of people kind of settle into the ultra violence difficulty, and that seems to be comfortable for a lot of people, although that has changed a bit with Ancient Gods, which is substantially tougher than the base game. Anyway, all that to say, I think you should play on whatever difficulty level challenges you and you have a good time doing. There's no reason to worry about difficulty one way or the other. I just like this one, so this is what I play on. And I've never really played on anything else, so this is kind of what I know. But it will allow me, hopefully, in playing at this difficulty, which is pretty damn challenging, especially in Eternal, compared to 2016, will allow me to kind of give details about what I'm doing and why things are important. So the game starts you out with nothing, so you can see me kind of struggling a little. Maybe you can't tell, but it's definitely a little bit of a struggle because I've been playing Ancient Gods. I'm almost finished with it. And I should mention, do forgive some hitching in this video. It shouldn't be a huge problem. I've done some recording up through the first few levels, and it hasn't been like a huge deal, but I do have an older rig, and while the recording generally works pretty well, when it has to load new assets as I'm playing, occasionally there is some hitching, and there's particularly like one really bad spot in this video where it does that pretty badly, but it shouldn't be a huge problem generally. Let's hope. So, this is kind of the first little arena. This is like your kind of little practice arena for, hey, we're setting up what the game is and how it's going to play, and this is your chance to get acclimated. They only give you 3 enemy types. You can see I am indeed struggling because I'm so used to having that dash. That is so integral to the gameplay that when that doesn't happen, when you don't have that, yeah, it's very disconcerting. So, they give you the sticky bombs right up front, which is handy, and this kind of teaches you how to use them. And you can kind of get used to doing your glory kills, which are very much an important aspect of the gameplay here. It's worth noting that glory kills weren't really optional in 2016 either, but in Doom Eternal they are very much baked into things. If you're playing on a challenging difficulty, you have to make use of glory kills, because you need to keep your health reserves topped up. So if they annoy you a little bit, if you find them like a little bit vexing, it's worth investing in the like speed increases so that you can kind of get through them faster, I guess. But really, they integrate very well into the gunplay, and I think if you give them a chance, you won't find them particularly vexing. So we get our second mod here, which is full auto. I never use this. A lot of things in Doom Eternal are kind of mandatory, or at least advisable choices, and then other things are somewhat optional and kind of do what you like. I don't think you can actually kill these Kakwa demons, but I just never really found full auto to be like super useful, especially once you get the super shotgun. So just never really worried about that. But the sticky bombs are pretty useful because they're great for taking out Arachnotron turrets at close range, and they're great for, I mean, really just generally exploiting any weakness. But they're versatile in that they can also be good for groups of fodder enemies and stuff like that. So, and there you can see I took out, well, before I fell, I took out the Arachnotron's turret. Which is handy dandy. I'm not sure why there's so much hitching in this area in particular, but there is a little bit in this section, so sorry about that. But I think it kind of clears up a bit after this. Yeah, so this is the kind of the first like bigger arena. It's still really kind of a practice arena, but it's upping things just a little bit. It's like, okay, here's now I guess this qualifies as a heavy, and I always forget that barrels have such a high blast radius at the start because I'm used to them not doing that. So, sorry about that. This, I think, is the run for this little bit. But yeah, so highly useful there, as you can see, for taking out the weak points on these guys. They're quick, generally useful for that stuff. This is the worst hitch, I guess, when it was having to load that animation, but this should be the last of them, I hope. Yeah, so you can see I'm making, reasonably judicious use of the chainsaw, which I highly recommend. Don't hoard that if you're running low on ammo, or if it's also good as kind of an escape measure. You don't get a lot of health from chainsawing. A glory kill will give you substantially more, but it's still worth doing. It'll get you a little bit of health, and you're probably going to need to top up your ammo, Anyway, so it's not a bad thing to do, I think. So that little first arena just kind of teaches you some of those basics a little more. Use your glory kills, stay mobile. Don't stand around choosing your shots too hard, but, keep moving. Which is another fundamental of this game, which anyone who played 2016 probably already knows. That was, no slouch on Nightmare either. You could die very quickly and repeatedly. I certainly replayed many sections of that game. I keep trying to use my mods because I'm so used to having the sniper scope installed on this thing, which I highly recommend. The sniper scope, much more so than the micro missiles. I really never use those either, primarily because this is so good for taking out weak. The sniper scope rather is so good at taking out weak points at range. So it would be particularly useful right here, where it's a little harder to use the sticky bombs to hit this guy's turret. A fantastically bad shot here, which is sad. There we go. But yeah, it's super useful for those range shots and softening some situations up before you run into them. And so I'm low on ammo here, just gonna chainsaw. And again, really, a lot of people do kind of have this tendency to want to like save their chainsaw ammo, kind of hoard it. It's like, don't do that, because if you're down to 1, it regenerates, or if you're down to 0 rather, if you drain it, you regenerate up to 1. So it kind of just becomes another part of your regular stable of like recharging gear. So you'll get into a habit of probably using an ice bomb, using a grenade, using another grenade, chainsawing something, and then once those cooldowns expire, you'll kind of start the process all over again. There's lots of one-ups hidden around the levels if that's your thing, if you want to like try and find those. They're definitely handy, but at the same time, like, you'll probably also find yourself losing to difficult situations because you got into a bad flow, and you'll lose multiple lives like really fast, and then you'll just have none left, and you'll have to, you know, redo things from the start with your single life anyway. So don't worry about that too much. It's not the kind of thing that you're probably going to like stockpile a ton of unless you're very good or playing on a difficulty that's not challenging you a whole lot. Yeah, so at this point, game is still not doing anything particularly fancy. We're just kind of wandering the environment, grabbing some stuff. The environments are worth exploring if you're the kind who just wants to like run and gun all the time. Like take a little breather to explore if you're having trouble, because there's definitely stuff hidden around that will help you. Multiple of these one-ups that you can find. You know, you'll find hidden armors or ammo caches, things like that. And getting the good ratings at the end of your level, I believe, will sometimes... I actually forget how that works, but I feel like finding stuff will also unlock like weapon upgrade points and things like that, which can be certainly handy. I feel like the game really kind of comes together when you have most of your base stuff. That's when it really gets good. Like, I feel hamstrung in these early levels when I'm playing because I just don't have the stuff I'm used to. You know, I don't have the dash and like blood punch and all the mods that I traditionally favor the most. It takes a little while to build those up, and particularly I don't have air control, which I always find frustrating. So you'll notice me making a lot of dumb mistakes as far as like my jumping and movement are concerned, just because I forget about how the inertia in this game plays out. Almost dead here, but thankfully managed to get this dude. So I went from 5 health to 65, so that's 60 health off of 1 glory kill. That should be a pretty good demonstration of why glory kills are so important. And then another 30 off of that guy. I believe it is, you know, dependent on enemy. You get more for glory killing larger enemies and such. But even your fodder enemies, you know, are worth doing that when you're at low ebb. Like that single fireball just took me down from 100 to 64, so these things can be rough. And I apologize, we're going to have a little issue here, and we're going to have to switch over to a new track. Sorry, minor glitch there, but we should be good now. Alright, so we get our frag grenade here. Frag grenade is something that will hopefully, if you're playing well, be used as part of your regular stable of gear. You'll want to just rotate it pretty frequently into what you're doing. You know, you'll want to look out for like the right opportunities, obviously, not just fire it off as soon as it becomes available, but it's highly useful for a lot of different situations. Either really big, you know, groups of lower level enemies that are causing you a problem. You know, anytime you see a bunch of dudes clustered together, it's usually a pretty good time to use it. So it will usually outright kill smaller enemies, which is very useful later when you get the upgrade that allows enemies killed by the grenade to launch like smaller grenades and to like stagger the enemies that get hit by it. That's really useful. That's very useful. But right now, it's just good for some extra damage, and I will probably forget to use it most of the time as I'm playing here, because in the early stages, before I get like the ice grenade, for some reason, I just tend to forget to use it a lot. Not really sure why. I guess because I'm just not doing like my usual gear rotation. So you can see I'm kind of just automatically like hedging my bets on some of this, where I'm like doing glory kills even though I'm at full health, because I'm just doing it unconsciously. If I'm not, like, this stuff is all pretty easy, so I'm not really like paying the closest attention to things. And so a lot of it's just automatic. I'm just going to periodically be doing some glory kills now and again, just because it's good practice, right? Most of the time, in a difficulty that's challenging you, you're going to need to top off. So this arena here kind of gives you a good idea of what to expect from the remainder of the game. Hey, I actually used the grenade. Way to go, me. It's like, okay, you've done some exploration, you've had a larger area, and now you've been confined to this little arena. Now, anyone who played 2016 will be familiar with this as well, because it's not exactly new to Eternal, but Eternal definitely really drives that concept a little further, I guess. And a lot of what you do is going to be, okay, you're in this confined space and you need to figure out the best way to sort of complete the tasks you have at hand. So you can see those guys are actually really useful as kind of like little aerial bridges. Like I jumped out over the edge of that ledge and, you know, was able to pop the glory kill and just kind of fall back. And especially later, once you get like air control and dash, you can actually like pop between those guys doing glory kills, which can be pretty useful in staying mobile in some circumstances. Just kind of worth noting there. These guys are irritating, and I cannot hit this barrel to save my life for some reason. I am sadly using a really terrible mouse, which you'll notice sometimes that I'm just cannot seem to hit a shot, and sometimes it's because this crappy ass $10 mouse that I bought, it sticks a lot, and sometimes the clicks don't register, which is even more of a problem. But yeah, it's not the best. So I will definitely embarrass myself with my crappy gear here on at least a few occasions. So we're about to go into another arena. This is just kind of another hallway leading there, but you can see I get hit by the zombie twice and like nearly die. Like Nightmare is no joke. Any hit that you take will be pretty bad. But it's also worth noting that you don't have to like give up in despair. Like many games, it's really easy to just be like, oh, I just want to restart from like the last checkpoint because I screwed this up. You know, I got hit like really early, and that sucks. But that's one of the things I love so much about the way Doom Eternal works, is that you always have the resources you need, or at least almost always, available to you. Because most of your resources come from the combat. It's a very forward-focused kind of thing, where you're just constantly pushing forward in the combat and getting your resources restocked as a result, as a reward for playing well and using what's available to you. So I wasn't even really paying attention to my ammo there, and I just decided that it had been a while. You know, it was probably due time for a chainsaw, just to make sure that I'm topped up. So that's a lot of how you will probably start playing things after a while, is just like doing these things unconsciously. It's time for a glory kill. It's time for the flame belt to get some armor. And just doing those things pretty automatically, because you never, especially on Nightmare where things are just so frantic and fast, you never quite know when you're going to take a hit. So having those things just kind of like around is quite helpful, knowing those resources are lying there for when you accidentally do the wrong thing. It's helpful in that regard. What else can I say here? I've been staying fairly aerial. I guess you'll notice I use jump pads a lot, and that can be really handy in putting distance between you and enemies while still sort of having a chance to shoot. Like jump pads. I'm not realizing that I'm out of ammo here. I can't do the sniper shot. Yeah. Sorry, what was I saying? I was talking about movement. It's handy to be able to move and shoot in different directions, and jump pads are great for that. Much like anyone who has, played any like Quake 3 back in the day, will probably have done a lot of that. Like, you hit the jump pad, you swap to the railgun, and frag somebody from midair as you're flying across the level. It's very satisfying, and it's also something that you can really do well in Eternal as well. Pop a few heads here. I tend to die in this spot because the imps. The imps are sons of bitches. And you will remember that I said they were dangerous in close quarters. One just got me from the side there. I was vaguely aware that he was there, but they move very quickly, so it's really easy to lose track of them and to just get killed. I've had numerous Ultra Nightmare runs end here because of something dumb like that when I was otherwise doing perfectly fine. So it's just something to watch out for. If you're in a close quarters situation like this, where there's not a ton of room to move around, you'll probably want to prioritize them as targets. Alright, and that's pretty much the end of the level here. All we do now is walk through the portal, and if you've missed anything, of course, you can go back through the level to try to find whatever it is that you've missed on your way here. I've had some issues with that. Mostly it's fine, but I want to say it was the Doom Hunter boss fight. The first one that you fight and kill, I believe I killed him and didn't jump down the giant pit that leads to like the final fight of the area, and he ended up spawning again when I went back using fast travel after getting some of the things I missed, and I had to fight him again, which was kind of funny. But fast travel is great. It's a nice little feature they added here so that you can kind of go back and find those things you missed, get your extra rewards, which is always nice. I wasn't as into the lore, the writing stuff in this game as I was 2016. I feel like they tonally missed a little bit about what made that one in particular so special. This kind of has its own breed of special, though. It's even more of a comic book and even more ridiculous. But yeah, so this is pretty much the first level here. There's not a lot to talk about at this point. I think I do end up missing an item because I'm not going for a full completionist thing, and I'm just kind of going mostly off of memory, so I don't spend a lot of time looking at maps and boring stuff like that. I couldn't remember if there was something else here. Satisfied myself that there wasn't, and I think I still missed something somewhere else, but that's fine, it doesn't matter. And I'll let you enjoy the story things for yourself, rather than spoil those here. Not that there's anything earth-shattering, but those are fun cutscenes to watch on your own for the first time. Missed a codex entry here, so whoops. Yeah, but anyway, hopefully this is a good sort of first introduction with a few basic tips before the gameplay kind of gets too far in. And yeah, we'll move on to the next.